I love listening to Rob describe his demos because he's so matter-of-fact, you know. He's like, oh, I can connect to GENI Cloud, I can connect to Mesoscale, I'll make a few VMs. And this is really amazing stuff that we're getting to see at this GEC. It's a really exciting time to be in the GENI infrastructure. And, you know, literally 3 months ago, you couldn't do most of the stuff that Rob just showed you. And you certainly couldn't connect across between different kinds of aggregates easily with a graphical interface and put your programming and your network infrastructure resources in place. So, you know, some of you probably aren't even awake and didn't notice it yet, but that was a really awesome thing you just saw. And you're going to see the same kind of awesome stuff from GENI. So I just want to make a big deal of it because it's my project. So what I'm going to do in the next few minutes is give you an overview of where we are on the GENI infrastructure as a whole. So as you know, we have 27 different projects that are all doing really difficult things on their own. Some of them are doing integration together. And then overall, we have a mesoscale where we make sure that we can combine all of the key network connectivity and the most important control frameworks who have compute resources to give to GENI, and those brave campuses who have come forth and said, yes, we'll put some of those things on our campus and try to figure out how to run them and try to figure out how people can use them and what all the security and administrative challenges are that go with that. So that's what the mesoscale is totally. And that breaks down into some groups which are core networks, which are networks that are nationwide. We are starting to do a little bit with international networks, but not enough that I'm going to have detailed slides on those. But if you're interested in international, you'll see it in the Slice Around the World demo. And there's more detail you can find by talking to either people in that demo or people in the GPO. The next group of resources and people who are working together are GENI regionals. And this GEC is also a big milestone because we have regionals now who have met their targets and brought up OpenFlow switches, and some of them are actually doing OpenFlow experiments with their internal resources. And so the idea that we had a year ago of, wouldn't it be great if some regionals could participate so that end-to-end networks could be programmable, is starting to take hold, and we're starting to have the building blocks that we need for that. And then the last key piece that you're going to hear more from Ilya, and you already heard some from Rick and Rob, is the GENI racks. And the GENI racks give us great integrated environment if you're just talking to racks, and they give us a great basic building block to use for interconnecting other resources and in a more uniform way. And so deploying those all across the country is really letting us expand the opportunities for where people can find networks and compute resources. So I'll give you a brief status of those and tell you a little bit about the acceptance tests that we've been doing. And then finally, support. There's a group of people in the GMOC and in the GPO and people at each campus in the IT groups and a couple of international operations people who've been interested in how we support a network like GENI. And we've been making some progress there too. So the first group, GENI core networks. We've been talking for a long time about NLR and Internet 2, but we've always had this other core network, which was the Proto-GENI backbone sitting in Internet 2 POPs. And before this, that backbone was mostly interconnecting only Proto-GENI resources, but now we're actually able to interoperably connect VLANs from Proto-GENI into the mesoscale, GENI racks into mesoscale networks that go to Proto-GENI. So we really have 3 different core networks that, if you combine, show most of the national infrastructure for what GENI is doing now. NLR is expanding the topology, so you'll see a little bit more interesting things you can do on the NLR side. Internet 2 is looking at increasing the link speed on the L2 links so that you can have access to the higher speed Internet 2 layer 2 service. And Proto-GENI, like I said, is using L2 links to go to GENI racks. So we hope to have a lot of dynamic things to tell you about next time with the stitching, which is also coming along, and there'll be some sessions on that at this GEC. This is a tried and true picture of the mesoscale. This is showing all of the regionals and all of the locations where we've had proposed for GENI racks. So this is larger than all the places that there actually will be GENI racks. We'll be talking about picking the final sites for the Spiral 5 deployments in the next few months. So at the next GEC, I should be able to show an actual picture of what we're going to do in the following year. We keep the status of all of the deployments for the regionals and the GENI racks online on the wiki, and I know this is hard to see, but we'll have the slides posted on the agenda, and you can go anytime and check the current status. You can tell from the green blocks that most of the regional installs are either done actually all of the regional installs are done. The only install that isn't done yet is the NLR expansion, which has been postponed for scheduling convenience, basically, and also to wait for brocade software to catch up with where the campuses and the core networks are. And we've had a delay on the InstaGenie racks, which is what that little orange piece is. And that is mostly due to contracting issues and to the fact that HP actually did a great thing, which was go over their design and improve the hardware and work out with manufacturing new bill of materials so that we could stay current and build an open flow network that had some life to it. And so the consequences of those two things were to delay some of the deployments, but everything's going to make it into the spiral okay. So if you're interested in deployment for a particular area like Chicago or anything like that, this is the page to go to check it out. On that regionals page, if you look at it more, there are maps for all of the deployments, and I'm just going to highlight the Scenic deployment here. It's a flavor. All of the regional deployments are a little bit different, but basically Scenic is doing a great research environment because they're giving us a 10 gigabit fiber ring with 3 different open flow switches. That's all deployed. There's interconnections off to Internet 2 and NLR, so you can connect off to other mesoscale and off to GENI racks. And they're making it available to all of the California schools that are members of Scenic. So this is still in integration testing, but we expect that Scenic is making fast progress, and we should see some universities starting to connect to this probably by the next time I stand up here. Oh, and that was also with a brand new vendor. Brocade, I don't know if I mentioned it last time, but if you don't know, Brocade is a new vendor, and that is starting to show up in some of the regional deployments, so that's kind of exciting. People who are wondering about Cisco, yes, there was an announcement, and no, there aren't any Cisco deployments officially on the map yet, but we'll most likely end up seeing some of that here too. So the GENI racks, like I said, the GENI racks give people reservable, sliceable compute resources and network resources. The thing that makes it all interoperable is that they comply with the GENI AM API, and we have a bunch of aggregates that also comply with that now. So you can use one tool, and you can use one set of certificates and be able to access resources from multiple projects. So that's great progress. We're still working on our specs and how to specify all the different kinds of resources that are there. We're using RSpec v3 right now in the GENI racks, and you'll see there are sessions about our specs being discussed at every GEC, including this one, and how to name resources and configure resources that are dynamic network resources is a pretty hot topic there. So if you're interested in that, read up and show up to those sessions. And then this is a list of the current slice authorities that are supported in GENI. If other people are interested in doing credentials and being a slice authority, let me know. There's no reason why we can't have more if there are people who want to do that. So this is the project schedule that shows where all the GENI racks are going or have gone. On the top is InstaGenie, and the big arrow there shows the delay that I was talking about because of contracting and ordering. but we expect to catch up on InstaGenie soon. And we're excited because we'll get our GPO rack finally, and that'll help us do a lot of interesting exercising and testing with the InstaGenie. On the bottom is the ExoGenie plan, which they've been executing according to schedule. And if you're interested in following these things more closely, they're also on the regionals page down towards the bottom. It's important that we make it through this part of the project on time and that we get all of these racks through acceptance tests, because both projects are going to ramp up deployments very quickly in Spiral 5. So that's the effort and why we're putting a lot of effort into the acceptance testing. We also have the Metro starter racks in Chattanooga and Cleveland, and there's still interest in those, and US Ignite is still looking at ways to use applications on those resources or other GENI resources. We have two types of acceptance tests, and the reason the GPO runs acceptance tests is to exercise the interoperable things and the mesoscale. So all of the InstaGenie developers and deployment sites are working together, and they're making sure that they can talk InstaGenie together, and the same for ExoGenie. And some of those projects are also trying to reach out and talk to other projects who are outside the GENI world. But we in the GPO are concentrating on making sure that GENI aggregates that support the mesoscale can all exchange resources. So that's the short version of what an acceptance test, and there are pages and pages on the wiki if you want to see the detailed version of what an acceptance test is. Another thing that we're focusing on a lot is the administrative and IT support pieces of the rack, because as you guys know, getting a system out is very hard, and a lot of times you can get the system out and working, but some of the support functions take a little longer, and the GPO is there basically to make sure that those things don't fall off the list, and keep reminding everyone that those are important to test. So we have a couple of diagrams showing what we've been doing for interoperability testing so far. These are on the wiki, so you can see them a little bit better. In ExoGenie's case, you can see that there are two deployed racks, one at BBN and one at RENC. So those are the things that have little boxes around them. And then the rest of this infrastructure is existing in the mesoscale VLANs that we've set up for connecting resources and resources on campuses that are actually tying into the VLANs. So Rob just showed it much better than I can show in a drawing, but we've had Louisa Nevers actually running these kind of tests repeatedly, and she'll be continuing to do that for the next few months. And if you want to see the details, especially the R specs, which are the key for actually getting any of these resources into an experiment, those are all on the wiki too. For InstaGenie, sadly, we've only had the one rack, but the folks in Utah have been fantastic about sharing their development rack with testing efforts and integration efforts. We've also had some resources outside the rack and mesoscale resources connecting successfully to compute resources and VLANs in that rack. So even though we had hoped to be a little further along on testing, we've still validated a lot of the interoperability stuff at this stage, even with the one rack. So expect to see a lot of progress there when the next one shows up. On the production support side, the GMOC in Indiana has been very active, coming up to speed with a service desk, so experimenters can call with questions, even though you know, it's very early still in the experimenter days. They also do support for campuses. They also do support for OpenFlow Mesoscale. And these are some URLs of information and contact stuff for the GMOC that you can look up. We're also very excited that at this GEC, the GMOC has been showing actual live monitoring of both types of GENI racks along with the mesoscale. And we're doing, for the first time, relational data about slices and slivers tied to actual performance data. So if any of you have looked at our old stuff, you know that all we could do was tell you about a VLAN. But now we can tell you about a slice, a VLAN, a sliver, a compute resource. And so you can start to pull out the pieces of your experiment and actually look at that in the GMOC monitoring. GMOC has also been working on emergency stop. We've had some live tests of that, and the procedure has been revised, and we'll be sending that out to the mailing list. Finally, they're looking at revising the concept of operations if needed based on what happens with the GENI racks. So last of all, I'd just like to recognize that some of our campuses are finishing up. So I'd like to really thank the PIs and the IT folks at the campuses who helped us with mesoscale. It's a great sign of progress, I think, that all of these campuses are staying with us in GENI. So even though they're not explicitly funded to do anything in integration or anything like that anymore, they all got excited enough about what GENI was doing and were willing to keep working with us. So you'll still see the great support from Georgia Tech and Clemson and Rutgers and all the other mesoscale campuses. Hopefully we'll have even more exciting things to report at next GEC. Thanks a lot.